There, how are you today? My name is Dana Jamara, and you have landed on Astrocast. This was going to be a special recording just for the equinox. I wanted to talk all about the equinox, and I will talk about the equinox. But there's so many other pieces of astrology that are going on right now that I feel that I just feel like it's so important for you to understand the patterns, the cycles, and understand that we are living in a time of great change. Great change. Neptune's going to move into Aries. It's been in Pisces for about 14 years. It hasn't been in the sign of Aries in 165 years. So what I want to do with this report is I want to go through kind of what's happening, and I'm going to show it to you on the screen. And then I want to parallel it back to when all of this was happening before so that it sort of makes sense to you. So I'm going to share my screen. This is so fun. All right. There she is. Okay, so the one thing that I love about this, first of all, is that there's all these beautiful blue lines on the screen, and blue is harmonious, okay? And there's just a lot going on. So right here, you'll see Neptune, and it's conjuncting the sun. It's at 29 degrees Pisces. 29 degrees is always called a critical degree. And a critical degree means that that planet is getting ready to move out of its current sign and into the next one. And when that happens, we just experience a shift, whether we, feel it or not, whether we understand it or not, it shifts, things shift. And so what I want to point out before we get too far on this recording is that Uranus here is in Taurus. It's at 24. It's going to be shifting later on this year. Neptune is shifting. The North Node is shifting. Pluto shifted from Capricorn to Aquarius, and Saturn will be shifting as well. Jupiter is also going to shift into Cancer, but I'll talk about that as it gets closer. But I want you to pay special attention to all these planets sitting here, right? So Neptune is sitting with the sign of Pisces right now, right before the equinox, and it's currently at the last sign of the zodiac wheel. Tomorrow, the sun will move into Aries. That will start off what us astrologists call the new year. So it's the astrological new year. It's the first day of spring. And then in 11 days from now, 11 days, Neptune will move into the sign of Aries and begin a new cycle. It hasn't been there since 1861, 165 years ago. Again, Venus and Mercury are still in retrograde, and we are sitting in between a full moon lunar eclipse and a new moon solar eclipse. The new moon solar eclipse is going to happen on March 29th. Okay. And so we are in an absolute portal of big ass huge shifts. Like it's just, and I'm just going to keep reading. Okay. So, Saturn's also going to change signs in May. It's going to move into the sign of Aries in May, and it will conjunct Neptune in July. So this is really interesting, okay? Keep in mind that Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac wheel, very peaceful, very compassionate, very loving, very psychic, right? And then Aries is like, let's go, let's do this, great ideas, the ram. So we're shifting from that energy to Aries energy, okay? Before we shift, I want you to know that one of the most important things we can do in any day, regardless of the astrology, is to remember to maybe lead with that little Pisces in us, that little sense of compassion and grace and spiritual aliveness. I think it's really important, especially when the world gets a little wacky. Okay. I'm going to actually pinpoint some of these dates to shifts in society. So I want to stay slightly neutral right now. Okay, so March 30th is when Neptune will move into Aries. That is, by the way, right around the full moon or the new moon solar eclipse. I'm just saying, guys, like one of the most, I've said this, I think I've actually said this since the beginning of the year, since January 2025. One of the most important things you can do right now is be grounded and like amplify your spiritual practices, right? So the equinox, let's go to the equinox real quick. The equinox is all about rebirth. It's all about starting something new. It's all about planting those seeds, right? And it's this beautiful time where we shift from dark, cold winter in the northern hemisphere, right? I'll just talk northern hemisphere into spring. Now, I always like to ask this question of clients and of myself. When this is happening, what new shifts, what new season are you entering into? Right? Because when we feel this shift outside of ourselves, we absolutely will start to feel it inside. So I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready for this. I want to clean out my house. I want to do this. I want to do that, right? It helps when it's sunny. But as we move into this equinox, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, what new processing, what new programs, what new structures, what new thought processes can you put into play that are aligned with using your magic, living your purpose, and finding a sense of compassion and grace. Okay? So that's the big thing with the equinox that I want you to understand. And then let me show you this screen again. Okay. So Neptune moving into the sign of Aries, it really will, it really will create a collective consciousness, and it will like almost shift a generational cycle. It actually does shift a generational cycle because most of us, none of us have ever seen Neptune in Aries. Not one of us alive on the planet now. It was 165 years ago, right? But most of us have been accustomed to Neptune being in Pisces. So Neptune was in Pisces from 2011, and then it'll be fully into the sign of Aries after its retrograde in 2026. So if you think about your life in that time frame, 2011 to 2026, okay? You know, what were your dreams? What were your hopes? What was going on? What were you wishing for? You know, chances are you look back at some of these dreams and some of them you've realized, some of them you have let go of, and some of them you're like, wait, I think I might want to rekindle that flame. So, you know, Neptune collectively has supported all of us in moving through a spiritual side of ourselves, an awakening, if you will, things that are intangible, right? Magical parts of life. Maybe you've decided to pick up a deck of oracle cards. Maybe you're finally checking out the moon and trying to understand it, right? This has absolutely been part of Pisces, Neptune and Pisces. Neptune can also create a sense of illusion. Like Neptune and Pisces is it's very easy to have those rose-colored glasses on. When Neptune moves into Aries, one of the things you're going to want to do, all of us are going to want to do, is take off the rose-colored glasses and see what the reality of life that's really happening around us. So Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, and there is more ego. There is more, I don't want to say reality, but there's more of a, there's less of a mysticism around the way we interpret life, right? It can make us very proactive when it comes to making our goals and our wishes come true. It can create a sense of confidence, a sense of courage. It's going to say, hey, let's get that project started. Like, I really want to do that. You know, again, I go back to all these blue lines. It's a very positive, harmonious moment in time, right? So think about how you want to lead your life and make sure you throw in some of that compassion and creativity. Okay. Um, Remember that Aries is very masculine in comparison to Pisces. So this is a push forward type of energy, very ego centered, right? So just be mindful of why you're choosing what you're choosing. Um, and let's be prepared for a lot of change. Um, it's also interesting to note that Saturn enters Aries on May 24th, and it will be really, really close to Neptune. And then it officially conjuncts Neptune on July 31st. So this is really, really rare. Think about Neptune as this dreamy, um, watery planet. It represents disillusion or dissolution and dissolving and fantasy and all of this, right? And Saturn is grounded and has lots of rules and boundaries and directiveness. So it's two opposite planets. It's absolutely completely opposing one another, right? And so when you have Saturn, this dose of reality, and then dreamy Neptune come together, there's two ways to look at it. One is Saturn is going to look at your dreamy things and say, oh, hell no, that's not happening. Let me show you what's really going to happen, right? Or it's going to give you this like structure for what it is that you're trying to create. And it's going to depend upon how aligned you are with what's here. So that's why I keep saying, like, keep going to the heart, keep going to the heart, keep going to compassion, keep going to joy, keep going to the things that are of service. Like, how can you be of service? Where can you be of service? There's so many things. Just continually go back to the heart. It could also be a very high tension point of the year where we're already seeing it dissolving establishments and dissolution and separateness. It's happening. It's already happening. So there's a lot of dates that I want to share with you that I think are important to note, right? So first, let's go back for a second. I'm going to go back to share my screen. This is a long one. I hope you guys are taking notes, or at least even pausing it if you need to take a break. Okay, so Pluto left Capricorn. Here's Pluto. Pluto was in Capricorn since 2008, and it finally moved into Aquarius. It takes 248 years for Pluto to go around the wheel. So now Pluto's in Aquarius on November 19th. And the last time Pluto entered Aquarius, ready? 1776. 1776, shortly following the signing of the United States Constitution. Here, wait. 1776. That was when Pluto was in Aquarius. And so Pluto, at that critical degree of Capricorn, moving into Aquarius, it transforms structures of authority and power and everything. And it just takes massive, massive change. And so now when Neptune leaves Pisces and moves into Aries, it's been there since 2011, 165 years. The last time Neptune entered Aries was 1861, when the American Civil War began. I'm just saying. And I have this little thing here. It says, the war is said to have started when Confederate troops fired on Fort Sumner in the hours of the morning around 5 a.m. on April 12th. 34 hours later, Union forces surrendered and the war began in earnest. Neptune entered Aries on the 13th of April, just after 3 p.m. So the timing is like freakishly on point. Like, just, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't make this stuff up. And so I don't share this information ever to like be in a state of like, oh my God, now what? Because let's remember, guys, that for as loud and boisterous as the change that we are experiencing in the United States right now, the turmoil, the chaos, the division, for as loud as that is, I want you to remember that the spiritual awakening of the collective consciousness is just as strong. It's just not as loud. It doesn't need to be. So I want you to remember that. It's really important. So, like, take a breath. If you were like, oh shit, now there's going to be a civil war. Dana said, no, that's not what I said. I said that all the same astrology was happening back then. And we have been known to work in patterns, guys. Like, the planets move in a cycle. And so we're always in these cycles. So how are we going to work with this one now that the spiritual awakening, our consciousness is a little bit higher? Like, that's the biggest question. That is truly the biggest question. Like, how are you going to work with these energies in this elevated state? Okay, wait, I have another one. Just 2 weeks earlier, the United States birth chart had experienced this Uranus return. Okay, a Uranus return is associated with change, rebellion, and an unsettled feeling of the future. Now, just hold on. I want to show you this really quick. So a Uranus return would be when Uranus, in this case, it would be if Uranus were right here. And a Uranus return is like 84 years. Okay, around that time, somewhere around that time. So during the American Civil War, Mars and Uranus both joined in a conjunction. Okay, and soon after that, Uranus conjuncted Mars, named by the Romans after the god of war. Mars rules Aries. Okay, and when these two planets conjunct, they amplify each other's energy. Mars is the god of war. Mars is the instigator. Mars is like, let's get shit done, just like Aries. Okay, Mars and Aries are like a couple. Now they engage with Uranus. Uranus is like, oh, we need change. We need to just like break shit up, and this is what's happening, right? And so on July 7th of this year, Uranus enters Gemini. Yay! Okay, bringing in a great awakening. Now, the last time, this is another one. The last time Uranus entered Gemini was on August 7th, 1941, shortly before the US became directly involved in World War I. Okay, so 2 years later, in September of 1943, Uranus experienced its return in the US natal chart. Okay, so the reason why I share these dates, because I think it's important. I think it's important to know that, guys, astrology isn't just about like, so I met this guy or this girl and I'm wondering if we like mesh. Like, okay, I do that too. Like, trust me. I think it's really important to like kind of know where you sit. I think it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't read charts if I didn't believe it. And so if we can apply it to that, can we not look at it as the state of the world? Like, the world is experiencing the same astrology that we experienced at very pivotal, challenging, dark times. Dare I say dark times. So I want to just say, I'm looking at my notes to see if we're missing anything at all. No, we're not. So in 2020, the other thing I will say is in 2026, we do experience a Mars and Uranus conjunction, and we'll experience it in a way that will, again, change the trajectory of how we experience this life. And let's remember spiritual awakening, collective consciousness, kindness, oneness, compassion, unity, just as powerful as separation. Just as powerful. Please don't forget that. It's so important. It's so important, you guys. Okay, I want to just, all this other stuff I don't need. So while we might experience upheaval and change and redirects and discomfort, right? I don't know if any of you are feeling that right now. While we do and will experience that, we want to make sure that we are in a state of groundedness. We are taking our rose-colored glasses off. We are seeing the truth. We are no longer shoving things under the rug. We are no longer devaluing our spiritual practices. We are no longer colliding with old energy that doesn't serve us. We are now saying, and for lack of a better phrase, you guys, we are now all instituting our spiritual warriors. And I don't ever like to make this woo-woo or sound woo-woo because it's not. Let's think for a second. Spiritual warrior. I am a warrior for the spirituality of my life. So when we think about this idea of everything shifting around us, how are we going to handle it? Are we going to handle it and become part of the problem and become part of the division? Or are we going to handle this in a way that is more spiritually connected to God, source, divine, spirit, goddess, universe, Pachamama, whatever you want to call into your awareness, those spiritual guidelines will now amplify. Spiritual powers unite. I'm just looking again. This is all the same thing. Yeah, so I think one of the things we can do during this time, one of the many things we can do during this time is know that we are up for great change, know that it's imminent, know that things are crumbling, things are becoming very awkward, and you need to call in your deepest, strongest Mars Aries energy and make sure that Mars Aries energy comes from a place that is deeply, deeply woven and connected to the heart, right? It's not necessary to create more division. It's necessary to serve. It's necessary to stand in your truth. It's necessary to create communities that are really important to you, that you can commit to. It's necessary to create boundaries for yourself so that you can take care of this one beautiful body that you have been gifted, and keep plugging into spirit, keep plugging in, keep plugging in, keep plugging in. Tune down the outside noise, but don't ignore it, because we're headed for great change. And that great change can be incredible if we allow it. I don't think I have a whole lot left to say after all that, except that it is the equinox, and I would highly recommend that you take some time to be quiet and to get really, really clear about how you want to show up, what you're birthing in this new season of your life, and join with the communities that are around you. and just be in that space. It's so important. This sounds again so, um, it sounds so wishy-washy, but it's like stronger. We're so much stronger together, right? We're so much stronger together. So be mindful, be kind, um, be strong in your body, be strong in your mind, and be open in the heart. Yeah. Good luck out there, spiritual warriors. Until next time, have a beautiful day. Namaste.